Okay, continue. I'm just thinking in terms of what's specific to you. What it was, I was going to actually cover some documentation issues today because I've gone back to Antora again and I've got it up and running. So I'm not sure how interested you are in seeing that, David. But in terms of the little bits and pieces, yeah.
Well, it's just I've got a few things on the go at the moment.
All right, let me try and just clear whatever it is, and whenever you need to drop out, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So just in terms of the small minutia, there's as David said last week, last two weeks ago, that there's a Windows 10 box there, and these 19 downloads is probably us because we've got this pushed out to a number of the formulas now. It's working just the same as the Windows 8.1, so that's good news. We've got the Windows 10 testing taking place. And at the same time, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, there was FreeBSD 13 coming out, and managed to put some pre-salted boxes out for those, and they're also working really well. So that's some more good news from that side of things. So the Vagrant testing is going quite well at the moment. What was the other thing? Oh yeah, there's Fedora 34 came out as well. And we had to upgrade our image builder to deal with 3003 because that wasn't being covered until recently. What's interesting about that is some of the platforms still don't have 3003. Let me just quickly have a this is just covering so you have a general vibe of what's going on, and these are now being pushed out to all of the formulas. But if I just look down here quickly, so we have 3003 for most of the platforms, but just so you're aware, not for Fedora at the moment. We're waiting for that to be pushed through. I think that's from the Salt side of things. And no, that's done as well. And yes, OpenSUSE. They haven't done it as of yet, but I haven't checked recently, so I'll just have a quick look now, see if there's been any change in the last few days. And let's have a look here, 25th April. Sounds like there should be something fairly new, but no 3003 at the moment. Still 3002.2, which they're patching. So that's really 3002.6. So other than that, like I said, all these have been built and they've been updated across all the formulas. So if we do need any specific 3003 testing, that's available. And as I've mentioned previously at some point, we don't have master builds for Arch Linux. So we are using 3003 for Arch Linux across our formulas. So that's that. And that's that. What else was there? Just recently, just covering some issues. Nothing particularly important, so we can skip past those. All right, I did have one question which I'd like your feedback on as well, David, because it's a community issue. What was happening is I got reminded about all the Antora stuff, which I'm going to talk about, because they've moved over to Zulip as well for a lot of their chatting because they were on GitHub before, and just reminded me a whole bunch of things. So on one side was the Antora thing, which I'll talk about in a minute, but it was the whole idea about using Zulip maybe a bit more extensively. And the reason why I mention that is because not everyone, or there's quite a few people I've dealt with in the formulas side of things who don't have a Slack account or aren't very interested in getting one. They don't want to join the formulas channel via Slack. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting with Zulip is because it has the Gitter integration, as soon as you're interacting with our formulas in the organization, you can just pop over to this side over here and join in. If we have a channel set up for that particular formula, like I've done here with the Docker formula, you can set up the webhooks so as there's activity taking place in GitHub, that'll come through over here. But if we need to drop down into having just a chat rather than continuing in the issue or in the PR, the person can just join here quite straightforward, GitHub integration, come in here, and we could have streams for all of the different formulas. Do you get the general gist of what I'm suggesting?
Mm-hmm.
Would that be a way of improving the communication by having a stream for each and every formula, which I think, again, is very difficult to replicate in Slack. But then that's the problem there is we're taking out our conversations maybe somewhat from Slack. So I just wanted to open that issue up and have a discussion about that.
I mean, from a personal point of view, I'm not sort of tied to any one particular kind of system. So yeah, I would probably pop in. So yeah, I guess I don't think I'm I'm in the demographic that you would that would have kind of an opinion really, because yeah, I'd probably use it. But like you say, there are people that are sort of more kind of picky about what and where they're interacting, and so yeah, I think you would need some other opinions. But
I mean, so I'm saying is I don't think all of our conversations need to be in Slack in the first place. I mean, nearly all of the things that do get brought up in this formulas channel are about a specific formula. So it's almost like maybe leave general sort of issues that pop up in Slack and still, discuss them over there. But if we have a specific, like I said, just when you want to set up a specific topic within a stream, it follows through really, really well. So if you go to other Zulip instances that are out there, it really organizes the conversations well. So even if they're taking place over a number of days, it keeps the thread together. Sage, have you got any sort of thoughts about this? Like in terms of if we did take some of our conversation over to Zulip instead?
I think that's fine. I think that with communication and how you guys want to communicate, just make sure that you do have sort of one place where you expose that. Maybe that's in your GitHub org or in your documentation somewhere that you just say, this is where we communicate, just so that people are aware. Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, we're on several platforms that I don't know that we necessarily consider we support, but we do sort of informally, and that seems to work out fine.
Okay, Daniel, I think you've joined here, but I mean, what do you think about the idea of using this instead, maybe for some of our chats?
Personally, I'm fine with the LEP. Making per formula streams, I think it's a good thing because sometimes is a mixed up in the Salt Stack formula channel, so it can be a good place. I have nothing against.
Okay, so we can maybe try it out and see how it fares, because I think again, when I'm now talking to someone maybe in GitHub in an issue or a PR, I can simply say to them or we can even have the link at the top of each formula page where it links directly to the stream for that formula. And they can then join in there, and whenever they're ready, they can just chat. And what I've done in the meantime is, because I had to apply for the open source, where is it? So this is just showing the webhooks. That's not very important right now, but these were the plans. But obviously the standard plan costs a fair bit of money. But because we're open source, we're able to apply for the standard plan as an open source project, and that came through. So put that through, and they've done that, so we have full access and we don't lose any of our history either. And that's another problem we're having obviously with Slack anyway, is that there's only a certain number of messages that stay there, and after whatever period of time it is, they disappear. So here you'd have, hopefully our chats would be available, forever, or whatever that means. So okay, so long as we're okay with that idea, I'd like to maybe just try that out for a while and see how that fares.
The only thing that I'd add to that is, I don't know if you're aware of GitHub's sort of beta feature of discussion.
Discussions. Forum. Yes, the discussions. Yeah. I did enable it on one of them actually. I enabled it on the template formula a while back, but no one cared. Where was it? Yeah, discussions. I think I welcomed people. I was back in 8th December. Yeah, welcome. No reply. Oh no, a couple of people gave me an emoji, but no comments. Yeah, what do you think? Should it be the discuss? But then again, this is still asynchronous, isn't it? It's that thing about having direct communication sometimes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there doesn't seem to be a huge difference between discussions and issues, really, other than the focus is supposed to be different, but it's the same interface by the looks of it.
Yeah, it's the same interface. I think it's just a bit lighter, isn't it? It's just like just a bit quicker. It doesn't open up a whole issue and any, maybe people have certain procedures that they have to follow with issues that have been opened, whereas with a discussion, it's quick and easy.
Yeah, right. The only kind of comment I have to make is, this kind of fragmentation where, are we at risk of breaking up communication over a lot of different places? I think this topic has come up before, but yeah, but I don't think there's anything wrong with this Zulip idea, and like everything else, we can try it and see.
Yeah, I've just been very impressed with the various Zulip instances that I'm joined to. And like I said, the way it just keeps, I don't know if you've seen any good examples of them, but the way it keeps all the, it's like Slack, but instead of having, what are they called in Slack? I forgot what they're called now. Threads. Yeah. No. So you've obviously got your channels and your threads, but your threads aren't really directed, and then they get a bit lost in amongst everything else. Whereas here, it's very much oriented.
Yeah, you give them a title.
You give them a title, and then it becomes a discussion within that.
Yeah, you can keep that thread to it.
And long-lasting threads work really, really well. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Right. One of the things I just want to. I'm sorry, David. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I'm done.
I just wanted to mention that we are looking at a paid instance for the community Slack. It's just taken us a lot longer to get that approved and push that through, but that will be coming this year. So then there is the retention of conversations, but that's just one aspect of Slack.
Yeah, that's just one aspect. It just seems to be that there are quite a few people who are not keen on joining up, and it is a bit of a hassle. You have to go through a few more hoops. Whereas what I'm saying here is when you're logging in, it's just simply, if you have a GitHub account, you just hit the button and you're in. So, and again, yeah, we can try it out for now and see how it goes. As long as people are happy with the idea, we can try it out and see how it goes. Right, so that's the Zulip.
That's great.
Okay, that's the Zulip thing. What this leads on to then, which is the main discussion, is this all reminded me of, because it's a couple of years ago, it was back in 2019 that I was trying to do something with Antora. Actually, what it started with was we were discussing about having documentation for our formulas, in a bit more of a decent format, and have all of our formulas documented quite well. So the initial attempts were made in Read the Docs, and this was definitely a lot nicer than just GitHub READMEs and whatnot, where it was collecting all of the RST files that we had in a repo, and pretty much automatically, creating our read the docs for that formula. But what this was is still quite fragmented in the sense that each formula has its own URL, and there's no sort of cohesive, look at the whole of Salt Stack formulas this way. So it was around that time, I had the first blast at making something in Antora, and it's not, the new one looks a bit similar. It won't look very different, but I was trying to run it on GitHub Pages, and I ran into some issues at the time where, trying to get all the things into one place was a little bit tricky. So I ran out of time. I didn't have a chance to do any more of that. So this is the old instance, so don't worry about this one so much. But what I did instead is, after talking to some of the people in Antora, or actually just reading some of their conversations, is the suggestion is to use Netlify instead, and saying it's just a whole better experience if you just push it out there. And if you're not familiar with Netlify, you just it's like fantastic for statically generated sites that you want. People have described it as, just GitHub Pages on steroids in a way, because it does everything that GitHub Pages should do and a whole lot more. And just it's got kind of like a CI built in it as well. And as soon as you push a commit, it builds the pages and stuff, and runs anything you need to run, and it just updates, immediately. So here's an example. I'll try and take you through the interface so you sort of appreciate what it's doing. Should I show you here's the Antora documentation itself. and it's got things like the Algolia search that's, you know, built in. So let's search for something more meaningful, like bold. Let's see. So, you know, it's got the Algolia search there that will search through the various versions of the software, and, you know, which is quite effective when you have multiple versions. So for the given page, it shows you the versions that are available, and you can click down here to see the various repos that are being pulled into the same documentation tree. So they've got the main software, and they've got the actual user interface that they're providing as a basis for others to use. So all these, you pull them open just as you would with Read the Docs or whatnot, and you have the documentation tree, which you can open up and work through over here on the left. You've got your breadcrumbs here. And as you work through the documents, you can see this little contents updates and shows you where you are, and you can use it as links as well through there. It's quite a nifty little interface, quite effective. So the idea was to write, again, as I mentioned last time about Antora, it's based on using ASCII doc as a formatting, as your formatting language for your markup. And I've found personally, I've used quite a few different markup languages, and I found ASCII doc pretty much beats, you know, everything else I've used. And I find I can do nearly anything I can think of, I can do it with ASCII Doctor, whereas I've not found that with some of the other ones, which is why I'm sort of strongly, or, you know, encouraging that we go down this route. But going back to what I have got over here. So given an example, this would be, say, there'd be like the main general repo over here, which would have all the general information about salt stack formulas, you know, things that are common throughout all our formulas, things like kitchen testing, things like, why can't I think of anything right now? I know there's a million things I want to say. You know, things like our contribution documents, and how our TOFS works, how MapStack works, and all these things that we are pushing across all formulas would go in there. And then you can have, you know, specific things to, like, I just pushed a navigation tree with all the formulas there that could all potentially be within that documentation tree. At the moment, these don't do anything, but one of them does, which is the template formula down here. So if I get to it, obviously you don't have to do this. You can actually just click down here and it shows you all the ones that are available. But let's just say you wanted to go through it like this. You could get to the template formula. And now what you do, you move into that documentation subtree instead, which has its own versioning. So you see SaltStack formulas so far only has its 4 versions there, and template formula has its 4 versions. And obviously that can be as many as you like. It doesn't have to be restricted to 4. So they're on separate versioning trees because they're pulling from different repos. So this is pulling from one repo, and this is pulling from the actual template formula repo itself. At the moment, that's my fork, which is why it's still back on version 1.3. I haven't merged it in with the latest changes. I just wanted to pull something together just to show how it would all work. So let's go back to the template formula. That would then be specific documentation for that formula. We could, I mean, this is what I did last time. We could reuse the documentation that's already in the tree there, that's in the formula. So things like the README and stuff could be put in there. Things like contributors, not necessary, but just saying it can be done if necessary. Let's go down here. There's some other navigation down here as well. And things like the change log, which I think actually looks a bit nicer here than it does in the repo. So could be useful to have things like that here. But then it's more important to have things like any sort of tutorials we might have to do with that formula. Definitely guides. I can see there's lots of guides we could have, the how to use this template, for example, or just generally how to use the formula. So for example, we spoke about having usage documentation in each formula. This could be something where it could be done, where going into that detail, it'll be a lot easier to maybe have in this format rather than trying to find it, clicking through the repo, trying to find where that how-to guide is. Any explanations, you know, where you want to go into a bit more detail about things, and then, you know, the reference material for that formula, things like, you know, how the pillars are set up or the config, what the structure of that is, and things like that. We can have all of our links here for our various, you know, whether it's the Zulips and whether it's our, you know, GitHub and our GitLab instances where things are being built. going back over here again, back to salt stack formulas, I think I've got that, where I'm saying we could have, even an area for the salt image builder, because that needs to be documented. As others have pointed out, we're building all these pre-salted images, but no one knows how it's being done, and that really should be something that's out there that anyone else can contribute to or join in. Even things like the SSF formula could be documented here, because the way this thing is set up, you can just point at any repo you like that has the documentation in the places it expects it to be, and it pulls it all in and generates this static site across all of your repos. So yeah, I mean, while this is ridiculous in the sense that nothing's actually linked at the moment, that's potentially possible though, if we ever wanted to and actually make some time. You could do, say, not 350 formulas necessarily, because most of these formulas aren't maintained, but the 100 or so that we are getting some activity on, they could be, put in here and people could contribute this documentation to it. So that's the general thing there. And and you get obviously the benefits of, edit this page, where it will take you directly to the ADOC file that can be edited, and it can all be put into a pipeline. I mean, I did it last time, actually. I put it in the pipeline and it updates all the version numbers and it pushes it back out. I didn't get around to doing that this time while I was just trying to bring it back to life, but it's pretty simple to do. It's just going to take a bit of time to finish that part off. So I was thinking about keeping it in my forks for now, playing with it, adding some documentation in there so we can see what the documentation actually looks like. And that can easily be transferred across if we're happy with how it's shaping up. So any questions or comments about this so far, or any discussion points we have about this?
I'm quite enthusiastic to that, to what I'm seeing personally, because documentation is a huge point missing for our community. I spoke with some people telling me that they started with Ansible because the entry level of the template formula is a little bit too much. Something like a step-by-step to set up a new project or something like that.
Definitely.
So yes, doing some documentation, some blog. Could we have some blog-like thing?
This is free. I mean, you can shape this any way you like, because it's a statically generated site. If you wanted to almost write blog posts as well, it's not CMS, but you can do it in that way where you still provide it in that format.
Yes, doing some ASCII doc pages in a specific structure used as a blog.
So we could have a heading here for for blogs, if you like, blog entries which go into specifically in a more informal context rather than structured content and stuff. Yep, why not? Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's maybe a good way to start, even rather than going into something more detailed, is having those sort of blog posts per formula. If anyone wants to contribute it, you're welcome, and bring it in there so we can at least have some content that's there for others to look at.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the first blog post I'm thinking about is to a more common, like the TOFS, Map Jinja, how to start a new, how we lay out our own formulas and why, and things like that.
Definitely.
And maybe I thought about it for the rest of the Soul community specifically, some kind of history about the work since one year and a half. I don't even remember when we started to have something quite structured about the Soul Stack formula.
Yes, yeah, and we're not highlighting that at all. We haven't, and this is now the way to do it, where we actually document it in a good, decent fashion, so people can actually appreciate what's been done.
Yeah, that's the reason we continuously see some kind of runs on the main Salt channel about formula, how we do things, etc.
Yeah,
most of Salt people are not aware of what we did since 2 years or something like that.
Definitely. I'm not sure you'll convince everybody, but that's not really the point. The point is, for those who are interested and want to use formulas, is to be able to use it more effectively, where they actually can use it, you know, in a more how can we put it, rather than hacking away at it and like, oh, I'm not sure how this fits together, and what does this new map ginger do exactly, and do I have to edit the map ginger? We want them to understand, no, you don't have to do that. This is the way you're supposed to use it, and this is how you get the best out of these formulas. I've got a few configurations for certain formulas of my own, and maybe sharing those would help someone else, you know, where they'd get the most out of that formula rather than groping around trying to figure out their own things. But I'd actually, going back to this ASCII doc thing, is when I was looking at the RST and I was doing this one over here, and this is obviously 2 years ago, I wasn't really feeling very keen. You know, I got to a table, there was a table I had to draw out, and where was it? It was in, Karen, if you want, in the meantime, I'm just trying to find out where it was. But there was a table I wanted to format it properly, and Sphinx just doesn't have that. It doesn't have the feature available.
Yes, maybe the commit prefix or something like that, you know?
Yeah, that one. That's the one. So what form? Which page is that? That's the.
It's a README and contribute to this formula.
Oh, contributing to this repo. Yeah.
Yes.
And I was struggling with it, but why is it not here? It was here before. Oh, here it is. How to contribute? Where's that gone? Don't know. I think I didn't even do it in the end because it was difficult to get that table produced in a meaningful way where I had it arranged the way I wanted it. Whereas in ASCII Doctor, when we put it in there, it's just so straightforward. So where you have how to contribute, and you have where is it? No, it's up here. It's you can configure this table, you know, down to the last piece, you know, what you need it to be. It's very easy to use and stuff. And so it's actually a pleasure to write it in ASCII Doctor personally for myself. And I could see myself actually producing some documentation. Whereas with Sphinx and RST, I just get a bit tired of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not personally, I'm not very fan of RST, but
it does the job.
Yes, it was in place at the first, so we still use that, but switching to something else is not a problem for me.
Yeah, I think as formulas, we're not so Python based anyways, in the sense, you know, you can understand why it works with salt itself, because you put it in the doc strings and stuff and it produces it automatically. And that makes sense, but we're not restricted like that. You know, we don't have that problem or that situation in our side. So we can be a bit freer and take advantage of these other tools, which might be more appropriate for us anyway. Like I said, I think, you know, trying to put all the documentation trees in one place. I mean, again, too many there, but if you had the main formulas in there and you can just, you know, move around between them really easily, and they match, the version numbers actually match the versions as the semantic release is pushing new versions, it's making new versions in our documentation automatically.
Is there any search engine or something like that?
Yeah, like I said, it'll be this. We'll get Algolia put in.
Okay.
I just haven't got around to the integration yet. What
okay.
Bob? But it's over here. It's these are the general instructions. Oh, and that's what I was going to ask Sage if she's still around. Is this question again? Are you still there, Sage?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. It was this question again about you know, who should be applying for these various open source licenses, because to get the benefit of Algolia, it would be the Algolia for open source, so that we could actually use it effectively and know that we're not going to run out of, you know, whatever credits they give for the month or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think we're applying for that. So let me just check on that. I think Derek is doing that. I will check up.
So should we be doing that? So some of the applications should be done instead, because we've got a few more. We've got the GitHub, not GitHub, the GitLab CI. The gold program's available if you apply as, you know, as an open source organization. So there's a few like this that just need some clarity about, and same with actually Netlify as well. So they've got an open source plan policy as well. And I was wondering, should I apply for that or should I wait? So you can apply for an open source account here. It's not much. So I'm wondering, I think we could do this ourselves, but should we be going through you or should we be doing it ourselves? I think that's the question I'm really asking.
Yeah, and for each one, we can kind of determine that. Let me find out about Netlify. I think for GitLab CI, I think we're also doing that. So let me just check. For Netlify, we're not using it somewhere else. So maybe that would be one that you would want to, but let me check. I don't think we are, but and I guess we could. Let me just check on that. It is also fuzzy to me too about how we're going to do that going forward. And let me just talk to the team and to find any policy or anything about that we're not violating anything there either.
Yeah, no, because we had a couple of people join from SARS like about 3 or 4 meetings back, and they were suggesting that someone from VMware, I can't remember the name of the lady, who was, and I think they were saying within the discussions they had that actually SARS formulas is community based and really should be doing their own thing. It's on YouTube. I'll probably be able to link you to it later on so you can see what was said. But it's just, again, so when we have a bit of clarity about this, we can move forward with these ideas that we've got just to get these things up and running.
Sure.
Okie dokie. So that was really it. I don't know if David's still around, if he's got any comments about it.
No.
No, he had to leave, yeah? Okay, so that was really it. So, I mean, just want to move forward with this. And like I said, I'll carry on some tests on my side just to make sure it's really working and get it automated as well, get it running automatically. So at the moment, I'm having to just manually run one part on my laptop and then just push that through, whereas that can be automated from CI. I just need to talk to some of the Antoro guys and get the feedback from them about that.
Okay, so when you will automate the thing, if we want to make some tests about, for example, blog post or something like that, I can fork your own and submit some pull request. Okay.
Yeah, so that will be, for example, let's see, if it's going to be formula based, it will be in my forks of the formula for now. So like, for example, this one, I mean, I have to fix the fork so it's using the latest version, but it would be over here in my forks for the time being. And you could just, obviously send a pull request through there and we'll see how that all comes through. And the main one being the, let's close these. I don't want to get mixed up with these now. Yeah, this is the main one over here at the moment. I'm going to change that. It's just I've been using that for now. And I think there's, the master branch over here will be the main place where the pages, all of them are stored underneath here. So there's single ADOC files. And when you've added the ADOC file, we have the actual navigation document, which is the sidebar on the left. Where are we? Have I just closed the wrong thing? I probably have, haven't I? No, I didn't say that. I said, copy that and give me this. Right, so this sidebar on the left here is controlled by a separate ADOC file over here. So if we go to the raw, it looks a bit difficult at first to follow, but it's actually pretty much the same thing over and over again, where it just links to the actual document within the overall tree. So they've got this concept of wherever the documents are coming from, whichever repo, you have a specific way to reference them. So you can cross-reference across even multiple repos because they all have a very fixed structure. I think I should be able to find the cross-referencing over here. Page IDs and cross-references. I think this is the one. Yeah, so for example, they have the version number at the component and the name of the module and the name of the page. So however big your documentation tree is, this is unique all the time. And so once you use that, it becomes actually quite easy to figure out. It looks complicated at first, but it's actually quite easy. So yeah, it's just these navigation trees are made and the other things are automatically generated. So this at the bottom here, these navigational aids here, the breadcrumbs and stuff are all automatic, or they've provided them within that. And this contents over here on the right is also automatic. Asciidoctor has that built in anyway, but they've provided this little JS over here on the side. I think it's JS anyway, to make it a little bit more interactive. But yeah, I'll let you know where you can go to. Hopefully by next meeting, I should have it up and running properly. And then we can test it out a bit more thoroughly, chuck some, like I said, blog posts or whatever else you want to try with it and see how that fares.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, no problem. So that's the main bulk of what I wanted to discuss. And there's other more minor issues, but is there anything you wanted to raise, Daniel? Any particular points or discussion points?
No, personally, I don't have any particular points.
Okie dokie. So then should we just leave it for today then, and we'll catch back up in 2 weeks' time?
Okay.
Yeah, unless you have some specific questions about the structure of the you want to ask about that, we can cover that. I don't mind doing that next time either.
Well, I think I will have a look to the ASCII doc and the Entora project. I don't know Entora, so I will try to do some review of the documentation. I'm thinking about the blog post section, for example. We should have some automatic indexing based on publication date or something like that, instead of manually editing a file to add a new reference.
Okay, in that case, I mean, these are the two main documentation sites. So there's the docs at antoro.org and then the actual main ASCII Doctor itself, yeah. But the community behind these guys, they got the Zulip community. So it'll be, actually they've got it linked here. So if you come here, well, they don't have it here, unfortunately, but they have it on the Antora side. So if you go to community, they have the Zulip chat linked there. And they've actually got a chat for the ASCII Doctor as well. So if you go there, they're very responsive. I mean, you'll get someone, giving you feedback pretty quickly as well. So, maybe that's a good place to ask these sort of questions and what they think about those ideas.
Okay.
Okie dokie. All right then. So we'll catch up in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Take care then, everyone.
See you.
Okay.